Hey there, welcome to the video. So, yeah, so this is part 3. So, somebody asked a question, the possible that Peter could have been in Rome, died in Rome, against his will. So here's the problem. So it got me thinking more. So if it's true, let's go back to Peter here, time Peter, okay. First off, if you look at all the writing of Peter, none of them cite any particular source at all. It's strange how you have this many sources and not a single one of them cites a source, okay? And there's more than just this. And so the red, by the way, is the modification made by Eusebius, I believe by Eusebius, okay? He had modified them. So it's strange you have all the, not one single one cites a source. But let's say there is such a thing as a source, somebody who invested money in papyrus and wrote down what happened to Peter. Well, if somebody's going to invest that kind of money, it's very expensive to get obtained by papyrus back then, by the way. If they're going to invest money and write down about what happened to Peter, that person had to know that Peter was a very significant person. Okay? And they had to know who he was. If they're going to invest money in papyrus, don't you think that they would invest money in a decent cemetery for Peter? Or at least start up a collection, have a decent cemetery? Don't you think that, it's just common sense. So anyway, let's take a look here at this article. So, article on the cemetery of Peter, alrighty, the link that I have. Alright, so I put down fake cemetery because it's just, so even the people that covered it, they're not convinced that the bones that were found were those of St. Peter, okay? So that the remains of Peter had been moved into a niche in the graffiti wall from the grave under the Deuce-Celia, I don't even know what that is, at the time of Constantine, after the Peace of Church. So this is the Edict of Milan, okay? Don't you find it strange that it's after the Edict of Milan? Now, the Edict of Milan had been around the time that Eusebius would have been doing the rewriting of history, alrighty? So it's after that, alrighty? Because at this point, he would have convinced Constantine that he needs the Christians for power. And that's what motivated the Edict of Milan, okay? And if you remember, Constantine was competing against Licinius. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Licinius, yep, who reigned around the same time. So Emperor Constantine reigned during this period here, and Licinius reigned during this time here. He co-authored the Edict of Milan. So in the midst of them trying to compete against one another for popularity, they're trying to obtain acceptance, many people as they could, okay? And so that's what opened the door for Christians to stop getting murdered, and Eusebius took advantage of that. So anyway, so some things to think about. It's just strange. You have all these so-called sources, again, and not a single one of them cites a source about actually being there and seeing Peter. Not a single one. And again, if there was such a source and that person invested money into Peter, writing about what happened, that person had to know that Peter was a significant person and probably knew who he was, and most likely knew who he was. Well, if that person knew who he was, again, he would have built a cemetery right then and there. You don't wait until here. And again, the people that claimed were the bone, they even said themselves, I'm not certain, It's all part of the narrative Eusebius is trying to create, centralized power on Rome, give Constantine that power in hopes that the murdering of Christians will stop. That's what I believe happened. Now that part is a theory, obviously, but what's not a theory is the fact that Eusebius is trying to rewrite history. That is irrefutable in his book Ecclesiastical Histories. And then you look at some of the writing, it's like some of the things are still false. and somebody had to modify them. So anyway, then you have to ask yourself the question, well, why would a person do this and who? And it points heavily to Eusebius, and it all adds up. A person cannot say it does not add up. So, alrighty. The burning of the books and so forth, and Constantine having access to all the tax collectors to assess property of everybody. It would have been a challenge to rewrite history. I'm not questioning that, but it was very possible and doable at that time, and all the motives were there. So, anyway, those are just my thoughts. So, also, I'm noticing that a lot of people are watching part 2, and there's more views part 2 to part 1. The problem with that, the problem is a person watches part 2 and now part 1, they're going to get the wrong impression. It has to do with Peter being okay. Like pointing out part 2 is that what was it? But basically, it has to do with the timing of the Gentiles, Acts chapter 10, versus the timing of where he withdrew from the Gentiles. The person just watches part 2 without part 1, they're going to get the wrong impression, and they're going to be like, what the heck? It's so important for a person to watch part 2 that they watch part 1, because then they get the full picture. Okay, now this makes sense. I can just see a person watching part 2, and they're like, this doesn't make any sense. So I just realized that recently. So anyway, so this part 3. I don't foresee more parts, but you never know. Alrighty, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and have a great day.